Good evening. This is KC9UDX. My name is Matt, and I welcome you to the 2 a.m. net. The purpose of this net is to promote the use of amplitude modulation and also to establish this part of this band as a place for AM activity in this area. Everyone is invited to listen. Licensed amateurs who can do so legally are encouraged to check in. We listen in the AM mode and transmit in the AM mode where possible. If you cannot transmit in AM, we encourage you to listen in AM and transmit in FM. If you are transmitting in FM, please adjust your transmit frequency a couple kcs above or below from our receive frequency. This facilitates the use of slope detection, that is, demodulating your FM signal with our AM receivers. When checking in, please announce your call sign in standard phonetics. Again, this is KC9UDX. My name is Matt, and I will now begin accepting check-ins. Any stations wishing to check in, please come now.
Good evening, Matt. K905. Here. Good evening, Matt and Jerry, W9JCC.
Alright, we got two so far, recognizing K9FI Jerry and W9JCC. Frank, welcome to the nets. Do we have anybody else? Alright, we also got KB9RZO Scott and WB9BWP Dave. Welcome to the net. Do we have anybody else? Alright, hearing none so far, I guess I'll start out by saying here that I know we discussed this in the past, I'm not sure how long ago, but I mentioned that I'm kind of moving over to library away from YouTube. And I'm not sure if I mentioned or not, but I had decided that when streaming became available to me on library, I might consider moving this net stream over to library instead of YouTube. Well, now library is Odyssey. Nothing much has changed except the name and the user interface a little bit. There's a long story behind that. But as of today, just today, they told me that I can now live stream on Odyssey. I did try it out today and it did not work. I will say that it works much easier than YouTube. It's almost brainless how easy it works. YouTube makes it more difficult and more difficult every time they change something, and it's so easy to make a mistake. Well, the interface on Odyssey is completely simpler. But I could not get any audio to work, and I guess I can only say that that might have something to do with the fact that I'm using a very old computer with a very old operating system and a very old way of doing things. And I don't know that there's too much I can do about that at this point. I'm not sure if I could even verify for sure that that is the cause of my problems, because I think you have to be on Discord or Twitter or something else to even discuss this kind of thing with people, and I am not involved with any of those things. I'll also say that I'd like to apologize if I'm less coherent than even normal. I did not get much sleep at all today. My neighbor decided to mow the lawn. So, like I say, if I'm sounding like I'm not quite all here, then I apologize. That's just the reason. So, with that, we'll go to the top of the list. Oh, before I do that, I wanted to say that the whole reason I was bringing up the Odyssey issue here, I want to get your guys' opinion. I know that we've become reliant on using YouTube, and it works very well. But I want to get your guys' opinion if you think we should try to switch over to Odyssey, if that's even a doable thing. But we'll go to the top of the list. Jerry, K9FI, it's your turn. go ahead and talk about anything you like from KC9UDX.
Okay, Matt. Good evening to everybody. K9FI. Everyone's coming with a nice signal except this is a CWP. I can't even hear them at all. But otherwise, everybody else is coming in with a nice signal. And as far as switching from YouTube to Odyssey, I don't know anything about Odyssey. I didn't even know it was there. I guess I'll have to look it up to understand what it is. And if you guys want to switch over and just make it better for the whole operation, I would say go for it. But I'll just have to get caught up, get up to speed, and see how I can get it, where I can get it, what do I got to do. You said it's simple, but I'm not a real computer literate person, I hate to say it. So what that, Matt, you're coming with a good strong signal, Matt. You might tell me how I'm K9FI back to that.
All right, you're sounding good, Jerry. Your signal is down from normal, for me anyway. I think normally you're like a 6.5, 6.25 maybe, and right now you're a 4. But perfectly intelligible and working very well here. I will say something about Odyssey. It's a little bit startling to get used to from a user's perspective, from a viewer's perspective maybe. I think YouTube was difficult to get started with many years ago too, but not this difficult. So it may take a while if you're not already on Odyssey or Library to get started on that. We've also got Joe on the phone here. Joe is from Barron, Wisconsin. Joe, stand by. And next we'll go to Frank, W9JCC from KC9UDX.
Okay, thanks, Matt. KC9UDX and the net, W9JCC, and good evening to everybody. Hearing everybody just fine. As far as YouTube and Odyssey, it doesn't matter to me, Matt. I even very rarely look at the stream on YouTube. I can hear everybody okay over the air, so I usually don't do that. And I know absolutely nothing about Odyssey, so it's up to you whatever you want to do there. You might mention if you're streaming on YouTube tonight or not. We had a pretty busy day. I had some concrete blocks I had to get leveled up. I couldn't believe how long it took me to get them leveled. I must have spent about an hour. Finally, I ended up getting a wheelbarrow full of dirt and just putting it where it needed it, and finally got them, I think, pretty close to, not perfect, but pretty close to perfect. And then we went out to the compost pile and started pulling some compost out and spreading it around the garden before we dig it up here. We'll probably do that tomorrow. Got a couple of walks in, and Tuesday I think we got groceries this morning, so that pretty much takes care of the activities for today. Anyway, back to that W9JCC.
All right, thank you, Frank. Fine business. And I'm losing my train of thought already here. Well, you did ask if we are live streaming on YouTube, and we are. It does seem to be working. I spent some time getting it going again here. I guess that's what made me bring up the fact that Odyssey was so much easier for me to use. Just getting YouTube started. If I went 2 months without doing this and I had to come back to it, I would probably not know how to do it all over again. Anyway, we are live, and I was going to comment something else here, and I apologize, I completely forgot. But we'll go to Scott, KB9RZO from KC9UDX.
I think it's going to make this a one and done. Then the last 2 evenings here, especially last night, was pretty intense. I was trying to configure. I have the Azu FDDX 101 MP, and I got the land unit for it, and trying to configure it, and I ran into a problem, and I couldn't get back into it. It turns out there was the network cab file that was staying in the registry that would not let me reset it and go back in. It kept the old login information, and no matter what I put in the login, it kept referring back to the cab file. As soon as I got rid of that bingo, I was in like blend. So pretty happy camper. All I got to do is get the LAN device on the internet, and I'm good to go. And work the whole radio from anywhere I got internet connection, including in the vehicle if I choose to tether it to my phone. But other than that, I'm kind of running on fumes myself. It's been a busy day, and came home and got that problem figured out, kind of by mistake, but anyways, I found out what it was. I can share it with the AZ Tech, who said they have to send it to their engineers, because they don't know. So I can inform them for a change. But anyway, I'm going to say 7-3. Everybody have a really good weekend, or week, and good evening, and I will catch you all a little bit later. I'll say 7-3. KB9 Arsenal.
All right, thank you, Scott. Fine business at Yezu, excuse me. That is kind of interesting. I think you have much more patience than I probably do. I lost my patience with Windows and things like cab files many years ago here. But that's pretty good that you figured that out, and hopefully Yezu will take your input on that. That would be good for everybody that has that. I can appreciate being able to operate your rig from anywhere. That's definitely an interesting concept. I don't know that I'll ever get into that. That's a little bit beyond what I normally like to get involved with. But like I say, that's very interesting that you can do that, and thank you for bringing that up. And I will say 7-3 to you, and thank you for popping in anyway. We will see if you'll come back next month, and actually if you're still hanging in here later, go ahead and poke back in here at any time. That's okay. Otherwise, next we'll go to Dave, WB9BWP from KC9UDX.
Okay. Good evening, all. And 73, Scott. Let's see here. Well, I hopefully got a few more wires to cut and put terminals on, but if I get that stuff taken care of tonight, if the weather is like they say the weather is supposed to get better tomorrow, I will be outside probably a couple of days working on the wires that I clicked through up at the end of last year, and see if I can make that work like it's supposed to. Last fall I spent, or more like winter, I spent all of a few days figuring out what I was doing there after I just kind of stumbled on an article in the antenna book. I thought I'd give it a shot. It really didn't cost me anything. It's a 4-wire horizontal C-beam, 4 106-foot long wires, 45 degrees apart, or sort of 45 degrees apart. Anyway, it didn't do what it's supposed to, but interestingly enough, I guess it blows up almost everywhere, so it does something. It's not what I thought it was. Anyhow, I made some new open wire feed lines. I got 75 feet of that I strung insulators on, and it involves 2 relays in a box up in a tree. I did break down my new box and a couple of relays. It cost me all about $12, I think, total. I'm not going to try to see what's going on with the old one. I'm going to just throw a new one in there and see what happens there. Anyway, that's sort of radio projects there. Last weekend was our crossband test, Armed Forces Day. I've made 3 contacts with various military installations. They were on military frequencies. They have a schedule. You track them down, and they tell you where they're listening, and you talk to them. But one of them, and speaking of antennas too, one of them was Naval Academy in Annapolis, and that was on 60 meters. They were transmitting and receiving at the same frequency. Those are shared frequencies. And I didn't have anything, really. By putting it, I didn't have anything. Actually, it might be the timer on the radio. I didn't have any of my antennas that were anywhere near resonant at 60 meters. So I actually made my first contact there. They said I had a good signal, but they had a whole lot more room and bigger antennas than I can even think about. Anyhow, that's a whole lot of talking there. As far as the YouTube things go, whatever you like, whatever works for you. I never heard of Odyssey before tonight, but that's okay. There's a whole bunch of things out there. I searched out a video for something about a month ago. I forget the exact name of the site. That's on Vimeo, I think, or something like that. I never heard of them either before that time. So who knows how many of these things are out there. But whatever works for you, hey, that'll work for us. Anyway, that's a whole lot of talking, so I'll send it back to that. This is WB9BWP.
All right, thank you, Dave. Fine business. The first thing that popped into my head when you mentioned that horizontal V-beam antenna loading up on every frequency is that dummy loads do a pretty good job of that too. And I guess my limited experience building antennas is that's one of the most important things I always notice is that if it tunes up really well without a whole bunch of sharp peaks and nulls everywhere, then it probably doesn't work very well. So, 60 meters, I guess that's one of those bands I don't think about a whole lot. I have nothing here that will work on 60 meters. And I don't even remember too much about that band. I know that we're very kind of limited on what we can do there, I think. I used to have a receiver here that I could receive there, and I don't recall ever hearing anything, but not that I probably tuned around there either. I have no idea. So fine business on making contact there. That's pretty good. And I guess there are a lot of these video streaming services out there now. There kind of always have been. You know, everybody thinks that YouTube is pretty much the only way around. There's only one around. There's been quite a few that have come and gone, and there's some that have consolidated, and there's a pretty good handful of them out there. The reason Odyssey is kind of attractive is because it's sort of decentralized. It's kind of a hairy explanation on how this stuff works, but the bottom line is that there's no censorship, at least not at this point, and there aren't any plans to have any. And there's no algorithm like there is on YouTube. You know, we're kind of at the mercy of the YouTube algorithm, whether the video gets watched and promoted. And on library, it doesn't really work that way. It's kind of monetary. I guess you'd call it a capitalistic type thing. You put so much money into your video, and that determines how popular it or how well it's promoted. And then other people, of course, can put money towards it too and promote it. Well, in the past, I brought it up as library. Excuse me, LBRY. My sinuses are draining. I apologize for that. LBRY, and it's very confusing because LBRY library is a protocol like HTTP is, or FTP, I almost said something like gopher or something like that, but nobody knows what those are anymore. Anyway, it's just a protocol. And there's a company called Library Inc. that developed the protocol and was hosting a site called library.tv, which was the video viewing and streaming site. And that got very confusing because too many people were thinking that the website was the protocol and the company is the website, and so they decided to change the name of the interface that most everybody uses from Library to Odyssey. So that's why that is. It's confusing now and hopefully less confusing in the future. Most people don't even have to know that the library protocol is there. And I guess I've been on Library and Odyssey for maybe 6 months now. My entire YouTube channel is mirrored over there. Almost every video that I post to YouTube ends up on Odyssey. And with that, I'll stop rambling about that. We'll go next to Joe. Joe, I'd like to welcome you to the net. Go ahead and take a turn from KC9UDX.
All right, thanks, and hello to all. I guess I've had a pretty exciting last month. Other than school starting back up, I got my vaccine shot, both of them. That was about maybe 3 or 4 weeks ago, kind of right when they opened it for 16 and up. And then other than that, we went to a house on the rock the weekend before last, and that was really, really cool. No one in my, went with us, my family, had been there, aside from my dad, who probably went, maybe 1980 or so. It was a long time ago, obviously, so you can't really remember it. And that place is really hard to explain. I think everyone who's gone there can say the same. It's like, most of the rooms are like how your mind creates rooms while you're dreaming. Just kind of a spaghetti of different walkways and stuff. It's weird, but also really cool in my opinion. Let's see. Oh yeah, another video streaming site is Bitly, which is BIDLII, and that one I find pretty cool because it's like a mixture of YouTube from about 12 or 13 years ago, and then MySpace, because you can customize your profile page thing like an old MySpace account, and the looks of the website are kind of reminiscent of like 2000s YouTube, and I haven't made an account on there or anything, but I think it's kind of a neat looking site, and I'll definitely look into it along with Library or Odyssey. So yeah, with that, I'll turn it back to you.
All right, thank you, Joe. Fine business. I had not, I had not heard of Bitly. That's a new one to me. And for everybody that wants to check out Odyssey, it's spelled O-D-Y-S-E-E. Kind of a different way of spelling it. O-D-Y-S-E-E. And there's rumors out there on the internet that Google owns it, and that I'm pretty positive that that's absolutely not true. There's another story behind all that. I think Google used to own the web domain odyssey.com, and it ended up going up for grabs, and then Library Incorporated bought it. The House on the Rock, I think I went there for the first time 5 years ago, 4 or 5 years ago, and I couldn't agree with you more. That's a very hard to explain place. Definitely worth going. I would like to go back one of these days, years, whatever. Don't know when I'll get a chance. But that is certainly a very interesting place. And with that, it seems like I'm forgetting to comment on something here, but with that, we're at the bottom of the list. Let's see if we have any further check-ins for the 2 a.m. net. Come now, please. All right, hearing none, I'll bring up a couple other things going on with me here lately. I mostly cleaned up my music studio. It's been kind of getting cluttered and disorganized for a couple of years. I don't get to spend a whole lot of time in there anymore. And of course, if you've been following my YouTube videos, you saw that I had the Lowry organ pulled away from the wall to work on it, and that has been causing a lot of disruption in there. Well, I did put that back up against the wall without replacing the power supply filter condensers like I had intended. So it's not the quietest thing, but it works. And frankly, my Hammond organ is becoming very, very bad in the power supply department. So it makes the Lowry sound very good in that respect. But that gave me a chance to clean up the room and reorganize a little bit. And for the first time in over 20 years, I purchased a brand new musical instrument. Should be here in about a month. I bought a digital piano that's going to replace an 88-key electronic keyboard that I have here, which is a very poor substitute for a piano. The new one is a Roland FP60X. Has a grand piano style action in it, but of course no strings and no piano harp. It's all digital and very compact, and that was a necessity. But I had a chance to play a keyboard, or I should say a digital piano, with that action a couple of years ago at Casio Interstate Music when that was still in business, and it was to me remarkably different from every other digital piano I've ever tried out. And I was looking into it, and Roland had just released some new models with the same components, but I guess the electronics have gotten a lot cheaper, so the price is lower. So I spent some money I really don't have and bought one of those. It'll be here in about a month, and hopefully I can get back into playing piano a little bit. And with that, we'll go to the top of the list. Jerry K9FI, it's your turn again from KC9UDX.
Okay, Matt. K9F5. Yeah, I'll say good evening to Scott for listening. And yeah, Dave, I can't hear it all. I can hear him rumbling in the noise, but that's about it. And it has to hear me. But I didn't realize that Casio had gone out of business, or maybe did they sell off to someone else. I used to go up there once in a while. For me, it's closer to go to White House, but I haven't been there for a while. So if Casio went out of business, I'm sorry to hear that. I used to go over there and look at some of their six-string banjos when I was in the mood for that, and haven't done that. And you might not know what kind of music you like to play on your organ. I know a man that I know for motorcycle stuff that's got a, how do I want to call it, concert organ with mechanical instruments right in his building, and it's very beautiful. We get to go down and once in a while when he plays it, he's in our antique motorcycle group, and he'll have a meeting down there to put on a demonstration with his big fancy organ with all the mechanical instruments and all the big boxes for all the tuning tubes and whatnot. It's quite spectacular, and I just hear it. And his organ has got like 3 or 4 layers to it, with 3 or 4 different stacked keyboards on it, so it's quite a big deal. And I'm just curious, Matt, what kind of music do you like to play on your organ? I'm a not so frank kind of, so Tell me where I'm at. Back to that. I'm at K9FI.
All right, thank you, Jerry. I spent a lot of years going to White House of Music too, and I got to tell you, I don't really like that place. I hate to say it because I've bought a lot of stuff there over the years, but I always found Casio's much more interesting to have a wider range of things. White House of Music seems to be kind of limited in what they sell, and Casio will be very, very missed. I used to go there a lot. Probably spent a lot of money there, but looked at things that I was going to spend money on more often than not. And I suppose that's what a lot of people did. They were bought out by a company that wanted to go online and get rid of their local store. So, I hate to say it, but that means I just won't be buying from them anymore. If I'm going to buy online, I might as well buy from Musician's Friend, or I can't think of the handful of others that I've used. But I probably buy most stuff, spend most of my money on musical instruments and accessories at Music Go Round, and I would highly recommend checking that out. Occasionally they get some very nice banjos in there. They come and go. They of course have a handful of real cheap, plain sounding ones pretty often, but they do get some really nice ones in there too. They've got a square neck dobro that I've been eyeing up for probably 6 or 7 years that I can't believe they haven't sold, and I keep thinking one of these days I'm going to have to go buy that because it's not going to be there the next time I decide I'm actually going to buy it. So I hate to say it, I might sell my round neck dobro just so I could buy that. I think I would seriously regret doing that, but that's probably the best thing to do. And what kind of music? I guess the best answer to that is I don't. I just plain don't get time to do that anymore. But I typically would like to play a lot of classical music and some improvisational stuff. I can't say that quite clearly tonight, but I have written some of my own music, and I was in a band many years ago now, a couple decades ago, where we played punk polka, and we thought we invented it, and we didn't realize it because people didn't talk over a long distance like everybody does today. But there were other people inventing punk polka at the same time we did. And with that, we'll go to Frank, W9JCC from KC9UDX.
Okay, thanks, Matt. KC9UDX, W9JCC. Say 73 to Scott if you're still listening. And let's see. The House on the Rock. The last time I was there, it's got to be at least 15 years ago, I would think. Maybe 10. But interesting place. I've been there. That was probably the second time. And when I first went through that place, I thought that little figurines came from the Far East or someplace like that. But I found out later that I think they built them right there at the House on the Rock. And all those mechanical things are quite the deal, and pretty unique. As far as musical instruments go, I do not play anything. I never got past the clarinet in the 3rd grade, and I can't carry a tune by voice either, so my musical background is pretty much level zero. And let's see, tomorrow I guess I'm going to be digging the garden. If tomorrow's like today, it'll be a good time to get out there and get the garden spaded up. And the reason I was telling you about leveling those concrete blocks, I have 12 out there, they go 2 foot by 2 foot square, and I got a
couple more, actually 4-inch high, 12 by 12s that are raised up a little higher, and that's for a rain barrel that putting in. Some other prices are going up, so we're going to try and conserve a little while. So we're starting with one, and we'll see if we go beyond that. But right now, it's I got it painted. I got one of these blue barrels that they use for carrying vinegar, and from an industrial place in North Prairie, and I got it for a pretty good price. So I painted it the same color as the house, and we're going to put it right in the back corner of the house here. And the rain diverter should show up on Thursday, so tomorrow we dig it, and then on Thursday we'll put in the diverter, and hopefully get that running before it rains again. So the other thing I've been doing here is trying to get my Spectrum app to work, the Spectrum TV app on my downstairs computer. It just does not seem to want to come up. It works occasionally, but it just keeps putting up errors. I'm almost tempted to call Spectrum and see what's going on there, because it comes in fine on the upstairs computer, but not down here in the shack. So anyway, that's about all I have on this one. I think I must have hit my 3-minute timer. Back to you on that, KC9UDX, W9JCC.
All right, thank you, Frank. Your concrete blocks remind me of a patio I had when I moved into this house 18 years ago. The previous owner had built a patio out of 2x4 forms with rebar going through them, and 36 by 36 roughly concrete pads, anywhere from 6 to 8 inches thick. And by the time I bought the house, you know, that had probably been there for 20 years, and all of the blocks had sunk to different levels, and it was just a hazard. It wasn't it was an eyesore and a hazard, and it took me a long time to get that cleaned up. I got all that out of there, and I've still got some of that busted up concrete in a pile in the backyard. Most of it went to the sand and gravel place, and I guess that's something that's always in the back of my mind. I've got that and a whole pile of busted up bricks that need to go there if I ever get around to doing that. And I don't know what the weather is supposed to be like. My wife has in plan for me to hook up the new pool filter pump this weekend. She bought this filter when she bought the pool 2 years ago, I think. And unfortunately, the pool uses these proprietary fittings with metric hoses. And the new pump is a standard made in USA kind of thing with nice imperial fittings. So I never got around to adapting it, and that's something I've got to do this weekend. I would have done it last year, but my wife purchased filter media for the metric one that came with the pool, so we just used that. But this year I've got to make the commitment to change that stuff over. And I think the weather will comply. As long as I don't have to work the weekend, I'll be able to get that done. I think it was Dave that was mentioning outdoor antenna work and things like that, and I guess the thing that popped into my mind at that time was the only thing I can do radio-wise that I can make time to do is probably figure out a new way to power the 2-meter FM rig that's in my shop, and a new way to get the antenna wired up. That's been very haphazard. And I've been powering it with a car battery, and unfortunately the radio draws a little bit more than my trickle charger, so I have a nasty habit of turning up the charge on the charger beyond trickle. And of course, a couple of times in the winter I forgot to turn it back, so that battery is pretty much useless now. And I guess I'm kind of rambling again here. So next we'll go to Dave. Oh, and Jerry, I think Dave had commented earlier that he cannot hear you, but we'll see again here. We'll go to Dave, WB9BWP from KC9UDX.
Okay. Yes, you are correct. I cannot hear Jerry, so I quick switch over to YouTube. And the delay's not bad tonight. It's only about a sentence or two. I've heard it a lot worse. But yeah, there's nothing, not even sound that I hear from him. But that's okay. That's what, we try all possibilities. So we got the good thing there. And it's a good thing you spelled out Odyssey, because when you were first talking about it, I just did a simple search. I typed in Odyssey video, and I actually got to a site called, that's spelled ODYSSEY, and it looks like they're also a video sharing type of thing. I'm not totally sure. Not to be confused with the ODYSS or ODYSE. There. So yeah, there's all these things out there. I just change one letter around or something. And, I've got a better idea. Okay, affair. Hey, as long as always did make money, I guess. Let's see. Oh, and you reminded me there too. You're talking about like powering radio and all that. One of the email lists, they get a guy it's on towers and antennas and things. And, a guy put up a link. Oh, I'm selling my spread in Colorado there. And here's the link. And I popped over there the other day. It's 35 acres on a mountain with 7 towers, includes the towers, and a building, not really a house, kind of an odd-looking building. Complete, off the grid, it's powered by solar, and you've got propane backup for the kitchen. What I found interesting was reading through all of the stuff. The whole spread, including the towers, is for sale for $150,000, and the taxes were, I think, $1,200 or something a year. And he puts it in the description. You can get the taxes lower if you put some animals out there and do the right agricultural stuff. But hey, and there's an opportunity for a remote station. The towers are already there. Put the radio out there. He didn't say anything about what kind of internet access the property has. So. Yeah, that's me. And Punk Mocha. I'm not very good at things. I make electronic noise, should we say. I have a synthesizer, actually a couple of them. Somebody who heard some of my stuff once referred to it as punk new age. So I guess it covers all the fringes, ham kind of strange anyway, I guess. So, anyway, let's see, I'm just looking at my notes here. And, you mentioned about improvisational, classical type things. I'm curious if you've heard any Keith Jarrett stuff. He ranges back and forth between jazz and classical things. I think everything he does is pretty much improv. Anyway, with that, I will send it back to you. This is WB9BWP.
All right, thank you, Dave. And no, I have not heard of Keith Jarrett. I guess I'll say that I don't listen to the kind of music I typically play. That's probably the best way to say that. I do listen to a lot of jazz and a lot of older stuff like that, but I don't typically listen to the kind of music that I play at all. Not in any way, I don't think. There's a handful of exceptions. There's a few classical piano pieces that I would like to listen to, but other than that, not really. And that's interesting. I wonder if you would make some of the music that you've made accessible so that some of us could listen to it. That's interesting to me. And I guess something I had kind of a lot of fun doing when I had time to do it is making these strange, really strange YouTube videos with musical backgrounds that are not real musical at all. A lot of repeating and obnoxious sounds and things. And I have a playlist on YouTube. I forget what it's called. I'll have to look that up. There's only about 5 or 6 videos, but I don't know why I kind of enjoy those for some reason. They're very well. If you like The House on the Rock, you would like those videos. They're very otherworldly, I guess. Anyway, next we have Joe. Joe, go ahead and take a turn again from KC9UDX.
All right. Thanks. I guess first of all, I'll say that I too will hopefully go back to House on the Rock and update today. Let's see. Oh yeah, the atmosphere. This is like kind of off topic, but does the atmosphere also monkey with TV signals, like how it does with AM? Because some channels on my TV I can only get at night, and some of them I can only get when it's like below 0 degrees Fahrenheit. And some of them I can get all the time, but that's I guess really not the point of that question. But yeah, I'd like to know how much the atmosphere kind of plays around with that, especially with helpful TV stations like here, maybe 3 stations, 4 stations max, with some listening with the amplifier. But let's see. Oh yeah, I guess I've been looking into getting one of those, like a ham radio type of thing that are run that can actually do two-way. Because technically, I have a portable radio that supports ham, as I found. But I'd really like to join our local ham club. I think I've talked about that in here before. I stumbled upon that. I'd love to email them if I can. So with that, I'll turn it back to you next road. Thanks.
All right, thank you, Joe. I guess I would encourage you to join that club, and I would encourage you to buy whatever you can to listen. Listening is very important, and of course you know we are a very, very small part of the hobby here on the 2AM net. There is a whole world of different aspects to amateur radio. And of course, you learn about all that stuff by listening and getting involved. Of course, without a license, you can't transmit, but you can listen. Even for those of us that are licensed, you know, it's in our best interest to probably listen more than we transmit. I'll tell you, though, there's a website called QRZ. That's the letters QRZ.com. I would check that out. I would register there. They have very good practice exams for amateur radio. You could probably take the practice exams and just be ready to get your license that way. You wouldn't even have to do any other studying, but I would, of course, recommend to do the studying too. But it wouldn't be difficult to just do those practice exams and take the exam and become licensed. But that's a very, very good that website is a very good resource for everything you could probably want to know about amateur radio. Well, you mentioned that what you were going to say was off topic. I think it would be very difficult to get off topic here on this net, which is probably a good thing. I suppose there are things we wouldn't want to talk about, but other than that, I think we're pretty good at not. We're all pretty rational people, and we, other than that, it would be very hard to be off topic. The atmosphere, the ionosphere, does affect UHF and VHF to a point. We, of course, have effects of that here on 2 meters. And being on AM, we tend to notice that more than everybody else. But, of course, most of the effects that you'll get from the ionosphere are lower in frequency than this. And TV is even higher in frequency than what we are right now. I think there might be some TV stations left that are lower in frequency, but I don't know that there are. The majority of them, if not all of them, are higher in frequency. You could the lower, early analog stations, TV stations, channels 2 through 4, maybe 2 through 6, were in an interesting frequency range that is kind of on the border of where the ionosphere really does things. The biggest difference you'll find with TV is the sun. The sun interferes greatly with all radio signals. And the thing about that is, because of that, TV stations run much, much higher power during daylight hours than they do at night. And that's why you typically have different conditions with TV. And of course, without the interference at night from the sun, you can pick up better signals. Excuse me. Interestingly, the best time with the digital TV, the best time to rescan your stations is at sunrise or sunset, when the sun is affecting the signals less, but the TV stations are still outputting maximum power. But that's the thing about that. What really kills digital TV is multipath interference. In the analog days, we used to be able to pick up farther TV stations, much, much farther, with less trouble. And I've heard that the new ATSC standard is supposed to mitigate that. But there are some other things about digital TV that I think are problematic, and I don't know that they'll ever resolve that. Well, I hate to cut us short here, but we are getting to that time. And if I go another round here, I will probably not make it to work on time, because I'll keep rambling. But I will see if there's any last-minute check-ins for the 2 a.m. net. Come now, please. All right, hearing none, we'll go to the top of the list. We'll call this the 7-3 round, but please do take your time. Jerry, it's your turn. K9FI from KC9UDX.
Okay, Matt. K9FI. Well, thank you for running the net, and I will look up some of that stuff on the internet so I understand what the cyber is and what that ecstasy, see what that is. And I don't mean to drunk it. Maybe on the dream. But otherwise, it's a nice net, and everybody stay safe, have a good day, and we'll look for you down on Austin in another couple of weeks. How's the music? Just started in May already, I tell you. They say when you retire, the time drag does anything except that. It goes by fast. Think of it, a couple of weeks, it'll be field day, and then it'll be half summer. Summer will be half over. And I haven't done anything like I did last year. I waited for field day, and all of a sudden I realized it was half over. Then it got really hot out, and that was the end of it. So, Matt, thank you for running the net, and I'll say 73 to everybody that I can hear, and you can hear me, and I'm listening up.
All right, thank you, Jerry. believe the saying is tempus fugit. I may be mispronouncing that, but it's Latin for time flies. For me, that goes doubly so. I work so much and sleep so little that that time goes by even faster for me, which that's why I never get anything done. But I can imagine, were I to be retired, I would be in the same predicament you are, where time would fly too. I would be very busy all the time and getting things done, and time would be flying. That's exactly the opposite of what most people, I think retirement is supposed to be like. And next we'll go to Frank, W9JCC. It's your turn on the 7-3 round from KC9UDX.
Okay, thanks, Matt. And signal report-wise, Matt, your usual 40 over 9, Jerry 5 and 7, Scott was 5 and 9, and Dave was 5 and 7 over here. And QRZ.com, I use that quite a bit. I used it to sell a fair amount of equipment when we had a estate sale to sell equipment for. And it's handy for just looking up other hams and so forth. So don't have much more to report. We'll say 73 is everybody. Thanks for running the net there, Matt. And hopefully we'll catch you next month. KC9UDX, W9JCC 73.
All right, thank you, Frank. And you brought up a good point. The marketplace on QRZ is probably the best place there is to buy and sell amateur radio equipment. I have bought and sold quite a few things on there. So that's something to look into too. And next we have Dave, WB9BWP. It's your turn on the 7-3 round from KC9UDX.
Frank and you, Matt, are coming in quite good. I always get kind of stuff down here tonight, which is always good. And Jerry, not at all, but again, that's what you do for. And I haven't sold anything on QRZ, but I have bought stuff. And if I think about it, probably the stuff I bought on QRZ has actually worked. And anything I've bought on eBay has always been kind of worked. Anyway, 73 to everyone here, and as always, good job running that net, and the fact that you want to keep doing it, that's great too. So, with that, I will send it back to them. It is WB9BWP.
All right, thank you, Dave. And I think we've been doing this net for 8 years, and no plan to stop. Sooner or later, I've been saying this for 8 years, so it'll probably never happen, but sooner or later I'd like to expand it a little bit. I would like to simulcast on 6 meters. I've been saying that for a very long time. Don't know that we'll ever get around to doing that, though. We are simulcasting on YouTube, so that's kind of a start. That's been a major turning point in this net, I think. I'm not even sure how long we've been doing that now, maybe 2 years. And I guess I'll relate one story about buying something on QRZ. I'm looking right at it, my KW2000A HF transceiver. I think I paid $150 for this thing. It's kind of an obscure radio, so it's not worth a whole lot of money. But the poor guy that sold it to me lived in Canada, and he what's the word I'm looking for? He underestimated the cost of shipping, and it cost him more to ship it than what I ended up paying him for shipping and the price of the radio. So I felt really bad about that, and I think I reimbursed him for the difference. But I guess I got the radio for, I paid, a little bit for it, but I guess market-wise I got it for nothing. Anyway, like I said, I'll keep going on here if I don't stop. I will say that I think the noise was almost absent tonight. I did not hear any noise when I was listening earlier. I did notice also, I was going to say this earlier, that the YouTube lag was very short. And if you were listening at the very beginning of the net, you probably heard that I had my speakers turned on the computer that I'm monitoring the stream, so there was a little bit of feedback there, but it was about a sentence behind, which is probably the best it's been as long as I've been paying attention. So it's too bad Dale couldn't be here. That it would have been nice with the short delay. Dale did check into the comments section on the video and said he wouldn't be here. I should have mentioned that earlier. And everybody's signal, I think, was a little bit down from normal. Jerry, you were a 4, normally a 6 1/4. Frank, you pegged the needle like always, can't make a comparison there. Scott was a 4, he's normally a 5. Dave, you're a 5 3/4, you're normally 6 1/4 to 6 1/2. So I'm not sure what that's all about, but I don't think it was bad anyway. Everybody, very, very good copy tonight. Joe, I will turn it over to you for your turn on the 7-3 round. Go ahead.
All right. Thanks. First of all, I'll thank you, Matt, for, I guess, kind of explaining a little bit how the atmosphere and sun and everything kind of tinkers with reception. And other than that, everyone sounded good on the net. Thank you a lot, Matt, for letting me join in on the fun live, aside from the YouTube broadcast, and 7-3 each ball.
All right, thank you, Joe. And I guess that's something I should have said too. Not only are we simulcasting on YouTube, we're operating over the phone here too, and that's pretty amazing. So I'm glad you could do this, and I'm glad you're here all the time. This is great. And with that, I will say this concludes the 2 a.m. net. Feel free to rag chew on this frequency after my transmission. We will meet again on the 8th, I believe. Yes, the 8th of June. Until then, this is KC9UDX 7-3, and good night.